The key turned in the lock 2 hours earlier than usual. Simone Patterson kicked off her shoes in the hallway, grateful that the school assembly had been cancelled. For once, she'd have time to start dinner early, maybe even surprise David with his favorite meal. 12 years of marriage and she still loved making him smile. The house was quiet except for a low voice coming from the bedroom upstairs. David's voice. He must have come home early too. Simone smiled, grabbing the grocery bags from the entryway. She'd picked up ingredients for his mother's pot roast recipe, the one that always made him close his eyes and hum with contentment. The stairs creaked softly under her feet as she climbed, bags rustling against her hip. "Can't keep doing this." David's voice filtered through the bedroom door, strained in a way she'd never heard before. "Every day it gets harder." Simone's hand froze on the doorknob. Something in his tone made her stomach clench. I know, he continued, and there was a crack in his voice that sounded like pain. Like grief. "But I need to leave her before she finds out. I can't let her see me like this." The grocery bags slipped from Simone's fingers, hitting the hardwood floor with a thud that echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. The voice on the other end of the phone went silent. Then David's voice, barely a whisper, "I have to go." Simone stood frozen as the bedroom door swung open. Her husband filled the doorway, his phone clutched in one hand, his face drained of color. For a moment, neither of them moved. They simply stared at each other across the space that suddenly felt like a chasm. Simone. Her name came out like a prayer. Or maybe a confession. "Baby, Who were you talking to?" Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Distant. Hollow. David's jaw worked, but no words came out. His eyes, those warm brown eyes that had looked at her with nothing but love for over a decade, were filled with something she'd never seen before. Terror. Guilt. Something else she couldn't name. David. Simone's hands trembled at her sides. "What did you mean, you need to leave me before I find out?" "Find out what?" "It's not," he stepped forward, one hand outstretched. "Baby, please, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" The words came out sharper than she intended, edged with the panic rising in her chest. "Because what I think is that my husband of 12 years just said he needs to leave me. That he's hiding something from me. That's what I think, David." The silence that followed pressed down on them like a physical weight. Simone watched her husband's face crumble. This man who had held her through her father's funeral, who had danced with her in the kitchen on Sunday mornings, who had promised to love her through everything, he looked at her now with eyes full of secrets. "How long?" she whispered. The question escaped before she could stop it, before she even knew what she was asking. How long had he been planning to leave? How long had he been lying? How long had she been living in a marriage that was already over? "Simone, please." "How long?" The shout tore from her throat, surprising them both. Simone never shouted. She was the calm one, the reasonable one, the one who taught second graders how to share and use their words. But standing in her own hallway, staring at the stranger wearing her husband's face, something inside her fractured. David's phone buzzed in his hand. They both looked down at it. The name on the screen made Simone's blood run cold. "Dr. Morrison. You're seeing someone." The words fell flat, stating fact rather than asking a question. "A doctor. Are you sick?" Is this?" She couldn't finish. Couldn't reconcile the affair she'd assumed with this new, terrible possibility. "No," David said quickly. Too quickly. "I mean, yes, but which is it?" Simone's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. "Are you sick or are you cheating on me? Because I heard what I heard, David. I need to leave her before she finds out." Those were your exact words. David's shoulders sagged. He looked down at his phone, then back at her, and in that moment, Simone saw her entire life teetering on the edge of something she couldn't name. The walls of their home, the home they'd bought together, painted together, filled with laughter and love, suddenly felt like they were closing in. "I need you to sit down," David said softly. "I don't want to sit down. I want you to tell me the truth." "Simone, please." "The truth, David." Her voice broke on his name. "After everything we've been through, after everything we've built together, you owe me the truth." David's hand shook as he pocketed his phone. When he looked up at her again, his eyes were wet. "The truth is that I love you more than anything in this world. The truth is that you are the best thing that ever happened to me. And the truth is..." His voice caught. Simone watched him struggle, watched him try to force words that seemed to be strangling him from the inside. "The truth is that I'm dying, Simone." The words hit her like a physical blow. The hallway tilted sideways. Or maybe she was the one tilting, the one falling, because suddenly David's arms were around her and they were both sinking to the floor, backs against the wall, groceries scattered, forgotten around them. What? The word came out as barely a breath. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, David whispered into her hair. Dr. Morrison called 3 months ago with a diagnosis. They gave me 6 months, maybe less. Simone's mind refused to process the words. Cancer. 6 months. Dying. The words were English, but they made no sense. They couldn't make sense. David was fine. He'd been fine. He went to the gym every morning. He ate the healthy meals she prepared. He was only 40 years old. No, she said. Then again stronger, no. That's not you're not. I'm sorry. David's voice cracked completely. God, Simone, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. Every day I woke up and thought, today. I'll tell her today. But you were so happy. You were planning your mother's birthday party, and you were so excited about your student's art show, and I couldn't take that away from you. Simone pulled back to look at him. Really look at him. And suddenly she saw what she'd been too busy to notice before. The slight hollowness in his cheeks. The way his clothes hung just a little looser. The exhaustion he'd blamed on work stress. 3 months, she whispered. You've known for 3 months and you didn't tell me? I was trying to protect you. Protect me? The anger that surged through her was hot and immediate. She scrambled to her feet, nearly tripping over a can of tomatoes. You were going to leave me. I heard you, David. You were going to leave me before I found out you were dying? David stood too, reaching for her, but she stepped back. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, my husband was planning to abandon me and didn't even have the decency to tell me why. I didn't want you to watch me die. The shout echoed through the house. David's chest heaved, tears streaming down his face. I didn't want your last memories of me to be of me wasting away, of me being weak and sick and not the man you married. I thought if I left, if I made you hate me, it would be easier for you when I was gone. Simone stared at him. Easier? Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. You thought leaving me would be easier? I'm scared, Simone. David's voice broke completely. I'm so scared of what's coming. Of the pain. Of losing everything. Of losing you. And I know that's selfish, I know I should have told you, but every time I tried, I couldn't make the words come out. The anger drained from Simone as quickly as it had come, leaving behind something worse. A numbness that spread through her chest like frost. She looked at her husband, her dying husband, and couldn't recognize anything in this moment. Not him. Not herself. Not their life together. Get out, she heard herself say. David's face went white. What? I need you to leave. Right now. I can't, she wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly freezing despite the warm air. I can't look at you right now. Simone, please. Go. The word ripped from somewhere deep inside her, somewhere she didn't know existed. You wanted to leave? Then leave. David stood frozen for a long moment. Then, slowly, he bent to pick up his keys from the side table. He looked at her one more time, his face a mask of devastation, and walked toward the stairs. Simone listened to his footsteps. Listened to the front door open. Listened to it close with a soft click that sounded like an ending. Then she sank back down to the floor, surrounded by scattered groceries and shattered dreams, and finally let herself cry. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the walls of their bedroom in shades of orange and gold. Beautiful. Peaceful. Completely wrong. Somewhere in the distance, a phone was ringing. But Simone didn't move. She couldn't move. She could only sit there, her hand pressed against her chest where her heart was supposed to be, and wonder how everything she'd known to be true had crumbled in the space of a single conversation. The pot roast ingredients lay forgotten around her. There would be no family dinner tonight. No surprise. No smile. There might never be again. Simone didn't know how long she sat on the hallway floor. Long enough for the sunset colors to fade into darkness. Long enough for her legs to go numb. Long enough for the tears to dry on her cheeks, leaving her face feeling tight and strange. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Then again. And again. She pulled it out with shaking hands. 15 missed calls. 23 text messages. Most from David. A few from her best friend Janelle. One from her principal asking if she was okay. She'd never returned to school after leaving for her quick errand. The screen blurred as fresh tears welled up. She blinked them away and opened Janelle's messages. Girl, where are you? You were supposed to call me after your classroom inspection. Simone? You're scaring me. Call me back. I'm coming over. The last message was from 10 minutes ago. Simone looked around at the scattered groceries, at the mess she was sitting in, at the life that had exploded around her. She couldn't let Janelle see her like this. She couldn't let anyone see her like this. She tried to push herself up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Her limbs felt like they belonged to someone else. The doorbell rang. "Simone, I know you're in there. Your car's in the driveway." Janelle's voice came muffled through the door, followed by insistent knocking. "Open this door right now or I'm using the spare key." Simone closed her eyes. Of course Janelle still had the spare key. They'd exchanged them 5 years ago, after Janelle's divorce, when they'd promised to always be there for each other no matter what. The lock clicked. The door opened. "Simone, I swear if you're ignoring me because you're binge-watching that show without me," Janelle's voice cut off abruptly. "Oh my God. Simone." Footsteps rushed up the stairs. Then Janelle was there, kneeling beside her, hands on her shoulders, dark brown eyes wide with alarm. "What happened? Are you hurt? Where's David?" Janelle's gaze swept over the scattered groceries, the tear-stained face, the way Simone sat there like a broken doll. Did something happen?" "He's dying," Simone heard herself say. The words came out flat. Empty. Like they meant nothing at all. Janelle went very still. "What?" "Cancer. Stage 4. 6 months." Simone's voice sounded like it was coming from far away. "He's known for 3 months. He was going to leave me. He was going to leave me and let me think he just stopped loving me. He thought that would be easier." "Simone." "He's dying, Janelle." Now the words came faster, tumbling over each other. "My husband is dying and I told him to get out. I kicked him out of our house when he's dying and I don't even know where he went and what if something happens to him and the last thing I said to him was, 'Stop.'" Janelle's hands tightened on her shoulders. "Stop, honey. Just breathe. Can you breathe for me?" Simone tried. Her chest hitched, stuttered. Nothing felt like it was working right. "That's it. In and out. In and out." Janelle's voice was steady, calm, the same voice she used with panicking patients in the ER. "I've got you. I'm right here." They sat like that for a long time, Janelle holding her while Simone tried to remember how to breathe. Tried to remember how to be a person instead of this shattered thing sitting on her hallway floor. Finally, when the panic had subsided enough for her to think, Simone pulled back. "I don't know what to do." "Okay." Janelle nodded slowly. "Okay. First thing, have you eaten anything?" Simone shook her head. "When's the last time you had water?" "I don't know. Lunch maybe?" "All right. We're going to get you downstairs, get some food and water in you, and then we're going to figure this out. Can you stand?" With Janelle's help, Simone managed to get to her feet. Her legs wobbled, threatening to give out, but Janelle's arm around her waist kept her steady. They made their way down the stairs slowly, leaving the scattered groceries behind. In the kitchen, Janelle guided her to a chair and immediately started moving around the space like she owned it. Within minutes, she put a glass of water in front of Simone and was heating up leftover soup from the fridge. "Drink," Janelle ordered. Simone drank. The water was cool, ordinary, completely wrong for a day when everything had changed. But her body responded automatically, grateful for something simple and real. "Now," Janelle said, setting a bowl of soup in front of her. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." So Simone did. She told her about coming home early, about the phone conversation, about the terrible moment when she'd heard those words. About the diagnosis, the secret, David's misguided plan to leave. About sending him away. Janelle listened without interrupting, her face growing more and more pained as the story unfolded. "That man," Janelle said when Simone finished, shaking her head. "That stupid man. Trying to protect you by breaking your heart. What was he thinking?" "He was scared." The word surprised Simone. She hadn't realized she understood until she said it out loud. "He's terrified, Janelle. And I made it worse. I kicked him out when he needed me most." "No." Janelle reached across the table and gripped her hand. "Don't you dare blame yourself for this. He lied to you for 3 months. He was planning to abandon you. You had every right to be angry. But he's dying. And you're his wife," Janelle interrupted firmly. "You're his partner. You deserve to know. You deserve to be part of the decisions about your own life. Being sick doesn't excuse what he did." Simone stared down at her soup. She hadn't touched it. "I love him, Janelle. I love him so much and I don't know how am I supposed to?" Her voice broke. She couldn't finish the sentence. How was she supposed to watch him die? How was she supposed to lose him? How was she supposed to survive this? "One step at a time," Janelle said softly. "And the first step is finding him. Do you know where he went?" Simone shook her head. She'd been so angry, so hurt, she hadn't even thought to ask. "Maybe his brother's place? Or I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Let me make some calls. Janelle pulled out her phone. His brother is Gregory, right? The one who lives in Riverside. Yeah. But Simone looked at her friend. What am I going to say to him? How do I? You don't have to figure that out yet. First we make sure he's safe. Then we figure out the rest. While Janelle made calls, Simone forced herself to eat the soup. It tasted like nothing, but she needed something in her stomach. Needed something to ground her to the world. Found him, Janelle said 15 minutes later, lowering her phone. He's at Gregory's. He's safe. The relief that flooded through Simone was so intense it made her dizzy. Does he know? About the cancer? Yes. Apparently, David told him a few weeks ago. Janelle's expression softened. Gregory said David's been a mess. He's been trying to convince him to tell you, but David kept putting it off. Simone closed her eyes. 3 months of secrets. 3 months of David carrying this alone, too scared or too stubborn or too something to let her in. What do I do? She whispered. Janelle came around the table and pulled her into a hug. You do what you've always done, honey. You show up. You love him. You fight for your marriage and for every day you have left together. I don't know if I can. Yes, you can. Janelle pulled back to look her in the eyes. You're Simone Patterson. You're the woman who got her teaching degree while working 2 jobs. You're the woman who organized the whole community to save the rec center. You're strong enough for this. I don't feel strong. Nobody feels strong when their world is falling apart. But you don't have to be strong right now. You just have to take the next step. And the next one. And the next one. Simone thought about that. About steps. About moving forward when everything in her wanted to curl up and disappear. What's the next step? She asked. Tonight? Tonight you rest. You let yourself feel everything you're feeling. Tomorrow you go see your husband and you figure out how to face this together. I'm so angry at him, Simone admitted. But I can't stand the thought of him being alone right now. Of him thinking I don't. He knows you love him, Janelle said firmly. He knows. And tomorrow you're going to remind him. You're going to remind him that marriage means facing the hard things together, not running away from them. Simone nodded slowly. Tomorrow. She could make it until tomorrow. Stay here tonight, she said. Please. I don't want to be alone. I'm not going anywhere, Janelle promised. I'll sleep in the guest room. And if you need me in the middle of the night, you come wake me up. Okay. Okay. They sat in the kitchen as night deepened outside the windows. Janelle talked about small things, gossip from the hospital, a funny story about her nephew, plans for the community garden. Normal things. Safe things. Things that reminded Simone that the world was still turning, even when hers had stopped. Eventually, Janelle convinced her to go upstairs to bed. She helped Simone change into pajamas, waited while she brushed her teeth, tucked her in like she was a child. Try to sleep, Janelle said from the doorway. I know it seems impossible, but your body needs rest. After she left, Simone lay in the dark, staring at the empty space beside her where David should have been. She could smell his cologne on his pillow. Could see his reading glasses on the nightstand. Could feel the weight of his absence pressing down on her chest. She picked up her phone. Opened her messages. David's text stared back at her. I'm so sorry. Please talk to me. I love you. I will always love you. I'm at Gregory's. I'm safe. Don't worry about me. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could she say? What words existed for this moment? Finally she typed, I love you too. We'll talk tomorrow. She hit send before she could second guess herself. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, tomorrow. I'll be here. I'm so sorry, baby. Simone set the phone down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow. She just had to make it until tomorrow. But tonight she lay in their bed alone and let herself fall apart. Let herself cry until there were no tears left. Let herself feel the full weight of everything she'd learned, everything she was facing, everything she was about to lose. And when sleep finally came, it brought dreams of David healthy and whole and laughing in the sunlight that made waking up hurt even more. Simone woke to the smell of coffee. For one blissful moment, she thought everything had been a nightmare. David was downstairs making his terrible too-strong coffee, and she would go down and tease him about it and everything would be normal. Then she opened her eyes and saw the empty pillow beside her. Remembered the words from yesterday. Felt the weight of reality settle back over her like a heavy blanket. She forced herself out of bed. Her body ached like she'd run a marathon. Her eyes felt swollen and gritty. In the bathroom mirror, she looked like a stranger, puffy-faced, red-eyed, broken. You can do this, she whispered to her reflection. one step at a time. Downstairs, Janelle was in the kitchen, still in her scrubs from her overnight shift. She must have gone to work and come back. The coffee pot was full and she'd laid out bread and eggs on the counter. "Morning," Janelle said gently. "How'd you sleep?" "Badly." Simone poured herself coffee with shaking hands. "You went to work?" "Just for a few hours to handle the emergencies. Called in sick for the rest of my shift. Told them I had a family emergency." Janelle cracked eggs into a pan. "Which is true. Your family?" Simone felt her eyes well up again. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is what we do." Janelle slid scrambled eggs onto a plate. "Now eat. You need your strength." They ate in comfortable silence. Simone managed half the eggs before her stomach rebelled. But it was something. It was fuel. It was enough to face what came next. "So," Janelle said, pushing her own empty plate away, "what's the plan?" "I need to go see him." Simone wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "I need to talk to him. Really talk. Not just," she gestured helplessly. "Not what happened yesterday." "What do you want to say to him?" "I don't know." Simone stared into her coffee. "I'm still so angry. But I keep thinking about him dealing with this alone for 3 months. Going to doctor appointments by himself. Getting that diagnosis and having no one to hold him. I can't." Her voice broke. Janelle reached over and squeezed her hand. "It's okay to be angry and heartbroken at the same time," Janelle said. "It's okay to feel everything all at once. This is huge, Simone. There's no right way to feel." "I don't know how to do this," Simone whispered. "How do you watch someone you love die? How do you make peace with that?" "I don't know either," Janelle admitted. "But I know you don't have to figure it all out today. Today you just need to talk to your husband. Tell him how you feel. Listen to him. Start from there." Simone nodded slowly. Would you come with me? Just to drive?" "I don't think I can." "Of course. Let me just call Gregory and let him know we're coming." While Janelle made the call, Simone went upstairs to change. She stood in her closet for a long time, staring at her clothes like they were written in a foreign language. What did you wear to face your dying husband? What outfit was appropriate for the day your life fell apart? Finally, she pulled on jeans and a simple blue blouse. David always said she looked good in blue. The thought made her chest ache. The drive to Gregory's apartment took 20 minutes. Simone spent the entire time staring out the window watching the world go by. People walking dogs. Mothers pushing strollers. A man washing his car. Everyone living their normal lives, completely unaware that hers was ending. "You ready?" Janelle asked as she pulled into the parking lot. "No. But I don't think I'll ever be ready." "That's fair." Janelle turned off the engine. "I'll wait in the car. Take as long as you need." Simone climbed out on shaky legs. The morning sun was too bright, too cheerful. Birds were singing. How dare they sing on a day like this? She climbed the stairs to the second floor and stood outside apartment 2C. Through the door she could hear voices. Gregory's deep rumble. David's quieter response. The sound of his voice made her heart clench. She knocked before she could lose her nerve. The door opened immediately. Gregory stood there, tall and broad-shouldered, his face lined with worry. He looked so much like David, same warm brown eyes, same strong jaw that Simone had to look away. "Simone." He stepped aside. "Come in." "He's in the living room." She walked past him into the small apartment. It was neat and sparsely furnished, a bachelor's space. Gregory had been single since his divorce 3 years ago, pouring his energy into his construction business instead of relationships. David sat on the couch, hunched forward with his elbows on his knees. He looked up when she entered, and the expression on his face nearly broke her all over again. Hope and fear and love and guilt all tangled together. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi." They stared at each other across the room. Simone didn't know how to close the distance between them. Didn't know if she should. I'll be in my room," Gregory said awkwardly. "If you need anything." "We're fine," Simone said. "Thank you, Gregory." He nodded and disappeared down the hallway, leaving them alone. Simone sat in the armchair across from David. Not next to him. She couldn't sit next to him yet. Couldn't let herself touch him until they'd talked. "You look tired," David said. "I am tired." She folded her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking. "I didn't sleep much." "Me neither." He rubbed his face. "Simone, Let me go first," she interrupted. "Please. I've been thinking all night about what I needed to say, and if I don't say it now, I might lose my nerve." "Okay." David leaned back, bracing himself. Simone took a deep breath. I'm so angry at you. I'm angry that you lied to me for 3 months. I'm angry that you made decisions about our marriage without me. I'm angry that you were going to leave and let me think you just stopped loving me. That's cruel, David. That's unforgivably cruel. David flinched but didn't look away. But, Simone continued, her voice softening, I'm also heartbroken for you. I can't imagine how scared you must have been. How alone you felt. And I hate that you thought you had to carry this by yourself. That you thought I couldn't handle it. That you thought leaving would somehow hurt less than the truth. I was trying to protect you, David said quietly. I know. But I don't need protection, David. I need partnership. I need my husband to trust me enough to share the hard things. Especially when they're this hard. David's eyes filled with tears. I was so scared. I'm still so scared. Of dying, of leaving you, of becoming someone you have to take care of instead of. Instead of what? Your partner? Simone leaned forward. David, that's what marriage is. We take care of each other. In sickness and in health. Remember? We said those words. I know, but nothing. Her voice was firm now. You don't get to make this decision for me. You don't get to decide that I'm better off without you or that watching you be sick is too hard for me to handle. That's my choice. And I choose you. I choose us. I choose every day we have left, no matter how hard they are. The tears spilled over. David pressed his hands to his face. I'm so sorry. God, Simone, I'm so sorry. I was such an idiot. I thought I was being noble or something, but I was just scared and stupid and... Simone moved then. She crossed the space between them and sank down on the couch beside him. She pulled his hands away from his face and held them in hers. Tell me everything, she said. From the beginning. Don't leave anything out. So he did. He told her about the pain that had started 6 months ago. About brushing it off as stress. About finally going to the doctor when it got too bad to ignore. About the tests, the scans, the day Dr. Morrison called with the diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, David said, his voice hollow. I didn't even know I had a pancreas. And now it's killing me. He told her about the prognosis. 6 months, maybe less. The cancer had spread too far for surgery. They could try chemotherapy, but it would only buy time, not cure him. And the side effects would be brutal. I've been going to see Dr. Morrison every week, David continued. Planning treatment options. Trying to get my affairs in order. And every day I'd come home to you and think, today. I'll tell her today. But you'd smile at me and talk about your students or your mom's birthday party, and I couldn't take that happiness away from you. You took it away anyway, Simone said quietly. By lying. By planning to leave. I know. David squeezed her hands. I know. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. However long that is. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Simone asked the question she'd been dreading. How long? Really? Dr. Morrison says 6 months without treatment. Maybe 8 or 10 with chemo. But the chemo would make me really sick, Simone. Weak and nauseous and not myself. I don't know if I want to spend whatever time I have left feeling like that. Simone felt something cold settle in her chest. 6 months. Less than a year. By this time next year, David would be gone. The thought was impossible. Unimaginable. How could someone be here and then just not be? How could the world keep spinning without him in it? What do you want? She asked. Not what you think I want. Not what the doctors say you should do. What do you actually want? David was quiet for a long time. I want more time, he finally said. I want to grow old with you. I want to see our neighborhood kids graduate. I want to dance with you in the kitchen on Sunday mornings for the next 50 years. His voice cracked. But I can't have that. So I want whatever time I have left to mean something. I want to really live it, not spend it too sick to get out of bed. Okay. Simone nodded slowly. Then we figure out how to do that. Together. Together, David echoed. He pulled her close, tucking her head under his chin. She felt his heart beating against her cheek, strong and steady and alive. For now. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry I made you doubt that. I love you too. She closed her eyes. And I'm sorry I kicked you out yesterday. You were scared and hurting and I made it worse. You had every right to be angry. Maybe. But I should have. She pulled back to look at him. We're going to get through this. I don't know how, but we will. One day at a time. One day at a time, David agreed. They held each other as morning sunlight streamed through Gregory's windows. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, two people tried to figure out how to face the impossible together. It wasn't fixed. It wasn't okay. But it was a start. They stayed at Gregory's for 2 hours, talking through everything that had been buried under 3 months of secrets. David showed her the medical records he'd been hiding in his gym bag. Test results. Scan images that showed shadows where there shouldn't be shadows. Dr. Morrison's notes written in clinical language that tried to make dying sound like just another medical procedure. Simone read through it all, her hands steady even as her heart broke. This was real. This wasn't a nightmare she could wake up from. The papers in her hands proved it, black and white evidence that time was running out. What about a second opinion? She asked. Maybe there's something the doctors missed. A treatment option they haven't considered. David's expression was gentle. I already got a second opinion. And a third. They all said the same thing. The cancer's too advanced. It spread to my liver, my lymph nodes. Surgery isn't an option. But chemotherapy would make me sick and buy me a few extra weeks at best. Maybe a couple months if we're lucky. He took her hand. Simone, I've read everything. I've asked every question. I've looked for every possible way out. There isn't one. The finality in his voice made her chest tighten. She'd spent her whole life believing that problems had solutions. That if you worked hard enough, tried hard enough, you could fix anything. But this couldn't be fixed. I'm still getting a second opinion, she said firmly. And a third and a fourth if I have to. I need to see it for myself. I need to know we tried everything. David nodded. Okay, we'll do that. Together. That word again. Together. It felt like an anchor in a storm. Gregory drove them home later that morning. He helped carry David's overnight bag inside, then lingered awkwardly in the doorway. You two going to be okay? He asked. We will be, Simone said. She meant it. They weren't okay now, might not be okay for a long time, but they would get there. Somehow. After Gregory left, Simone and David stood in their living room, suddenly uncertain. The house felt different now. The furniture, the pictures on the walls, the coffee mug David had left on the counter yesterday morning, everything looked the same but meant something different. This was the house where David would die. These were the rooms where they'd spend their final months together. I should call my mom, Simone said. And your family. People need to know. Not yet. David caught her hand. Can we have today? Just today before we tell everyone and it becomes real? It's already real, Simone said softly. I know. But once we tell people it'll be different. They'll look at me different. They'll treat me like I'm already gone. His voice was thick. Just give me one more day of being regular David. Of being your husband, not the guy who's dying. Simone understood. Once they told people, everything would change. Their friends would come with casseroles and sympathy. Their families would want to visit. Everyone would want to help, to fix, to make it better, but nothing would make it better. Okay, she agreed. Today is just for us. They spent the day doing ordinary things. David made them lunch sandwiches that were slightly lopsided because his hands shook. Simone pretended not to notice. They watched an old movie on the couch, pressed together like they used to do when they were first dating. They talked about small things. Avoided big things. Tried to pretend that everything was normal. But normal was gone. Simone could feel its absence in every moment. In the way she memorized the sound of David's laugh. In the way she held his hand tighter than necessary. In the way she caught herself thinking, this might be the last time, about everything they did. That evening Janelle called. How'd it go? She asked. It went, Simone said, stepping onto the back porch so David wouldn't hear. We talked. We're trying to figure this out. And you're okay? No. But I'm not falling apart, so that's something. That's definitely something. Janelle paused. Do you want me to come over? Not tonight. Tonight I just need to be with him. But tomorrow we'll need help. We have to tell people. Make plans. Figure out, her voice cracked. Figure out how to say goodbye. I'll be there, Janelle promised. Whatever you need, whenever you need it. After they hung up, Simone stood on the porch for a while looking at their backyard. David had planted rose bushes along the fence 3 years ago. They were blooming now, pink and white and red. He'd be gone before they bloomed again next year. The thought was a knife in her chest. Inside, David was making dinner. She could hear him moving around the kitchen, could smell onions and garlic. Normal sounds, normal smells. How many more times would she hear them? How many more dinners would they share? Stop counting, she whispered to herself. Stop measuring everything against the end. But she couldn't help it. Every moment was suddenly precious. Every minute together was 1 minute less they'd have. She went back inside and found David at the stove, stirring pasta sauce. He looked up when she entered, and his smile was so familiar, so David, that it made her want to weep. Almost ready, he said. I made your favorite. The sauce from my grandmother's recipe. They ate at the kitchen table by candlelight. David had set out the good plates, the ones they usually saved for special occasions. Everything felt weighted with significance. This wasn't just dinner. It was a memory being made. A moment they'd both remember later. Tell me something, David said suddenly. Something you've never told me before. Simone thought about it. I was terrified to marry you. His eyebrows rose. What? The night before our wedding, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed at my mom's house and thought about how much I loved you. How complete you made me feel. And I was terrified because I couldn't imagine surviving if I ever lost you. She met his eyes across the table. Turns out I was right to be scared. David reached across the table and took her hand. You're going to survive this, Simone. You're going to survive me. You're the strongest person I know. I don't feel strong. You never do. But you are. He squeezed her hand. Promise me something. Promise me that after I'm gone you'll keep living. Really living. Not just existing. David. Promise me, he insisted. Promise me you'll keep teaching. Keep laughing with Janelle. Keep planting flowers in the yard. Keep being you. Because the thought of you just giving up, that's the only thing that scares me more than dying. Simone felt tears slip down her cheeks. I promise. But only if you promise me something too. Anything. Promise me you'll fight. Not for the chemo or the treatments, but for every day. Promise me you won't give up. That you'll squeeze every bit of life out of whatever time you have left. I promise, David said. As long as you're with me, I promise. They finished dinner in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Afterward, they washed dishes together like they had 1,000 times before. Simone washed, David dried. Their rhythm was practiced, comfortable. In bed that night, they lay facing each other in the dark. I'm scared, David whispered. Me too. What if I'm not brave enough? What if I fall apart? Then you fall apart, Simone said. And I'll hold you together until you can stand on your own again. That's what we do. He pulled her close and she felt his tears wet against her neck. She held him while he cried, this man who was always so strong, so steady. She held him and let him break because he'd held her when she broke. Because that's what love was, being strong for each other when strength ran out. I don't want to leave you, he sobbed. I'm not ready. I'm only 40 years old. We were supposed to have more time. I know, baby. I know. I had so many plans. I was going to finally learn to play guitar. We were going to take that trip to Ghana your mom's always talking about. We were going to grow old together and be those annoying people who finish each other's sentences. His hands fisted in her shirt. I don't want to die, Simone. I'm not ready to die. I know, she said again, because there were no other words. Nothing she could say would make this better. Nothing would take away his fear or her grief or the terrible unfairness of it all. So she just held him. Held him while he cried himself out. Held him until his breathing slowed and evened. Held him while he fell asleep in her arms, exhausted from fear and grief. And then she lay awake in the dark, listening to him breathe, counting each breath like a prayer, wondering how many more nights they'd have like this. How many more times she'd fall asleep beside him. 6 months, the doctor said. Maybe less. Maybe more. But right now, in this moment, he was here. He was alive. He was hers. And that would have to be enough. Morning came too quickly. Simone woke to find David already up, sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone in his hands. The sunlight streaming through the windows cast shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. Or maybe they had been and she just hadn't noticed. We need to tell people today, he said without looking at her. I called Dr. Morrison. She wants to see both of us this afternoon to discuss treatment options, and he paused, swallowed hard. And end-of-life care. End-of-life care. The words hung in the air between them like something toxic. Okay, Simone said, sitting up. We'll go see her. But first we tell our families. Together. They made a list over breakfast. David's mother and brother. Simone's mother. Her younger sister, Renee. The rest could wait, friends, co-workers, neighbors. But family needed to know first. Who do we call first? David asked, staring at the list like it might bite him. Your mom, Simone decided. She'll want to hear it from you. David's hand shook as he dialed. Simone sat beside him on the couch, close enough to hear when his mother answered. David, baby, I was just thinking about you. How are you? Hi, Mom. His voice cracked on the second word. He cleared his throat. Is Dad there? Can you put me on speaker? Of course, honey. Hold on. Rustling sounds, then his father's deeper voice. David? What's wrong? They knew. Of course they knew. Parents always knew when something was wrong. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. David reached for Simone's hand and held it tight. I'm sick. I have cancer. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then his mother's voice, high and thin. What? What do you know? No, David, you're only 40. You can't. I'm sorry, Mom. I've seen 3 different doctors. They all say the same thing. How long have you known? His father's voice was controlled, careful. Too controlled. 3 months. 3 months. His mother's voice rose to a near shriek. You've known for 3 months and you're just now telling us. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to. We're your parents. We deserve to know. She was crying now. Simone could hear it in every word. Oh God, David. My baby. How long? What did they say? Linda, breathe. David's father, always the practical one. David, what's the prognosis? 6 months. Maybe a little longer with treatment. 6 months. His father repeated the words like he couldn't quite believe them. And the treatment? What are the options? David explained about the chemotherapy, the side effects, the minimal time it might buy. His parents listened in stunned silence. We're coming to Chicago, his mother said when he finished. We're getting on a plane today. Mom, you don't have to. Don't you dare. Her voice was fierce now, mother strong. Don't you dare tell me I don't need to be there for my son. We're coming and that's final. Okay, David said quietly. Okay. After they hung up, David sat with his head in his hands. That was horrible. It was necessary, Simone said gently. And the rest will be just as hard. But we'll get through it. They called Gregory next. He took it quietly, his voice thick with emotion. I should have made you tell her sooner, he said. I should have. This isn't your fault, David interrupted. None of this is anyone's fault. Simone called her own mother while David called his aunt and uncle. The conversation was brutal. Her mother, Diane, had never been one for emotional displays, but Simone heard her composure shatter over the phone. How bad? Diane asked after Simone explained everything. Bad, Mama. As bad as it gets. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 2 hours. You don't have to. Simone Marie Patterson, I am your mother. Your husband is dying. Do not tell me I don't need to be there. Her voice softened. How are you holding up, baby girl? I don't know, Simone admitted. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. However you feel is exactly right, Diane said. There's no map for this, honey. You just have to walk through it one step at a time. The last call was to Simone's sister, Renee. At 29, Renee was still figuring out her life, bouncing between jobs, relationships, cities. But when Simone told her about David, she went quiet in a way that was unlike her. I'm coming home, Renee said finally. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're my sister. David's family. I'm coming home and I'm staying until, her voice broke. I'm coming home. By noon, they'd made all the necessary calls. David's parents were on a flight from Phoenix. Simone's mother was already on the road. Renee was packing. By evening, their house would be full of family, full of support, full of people trying to help them face the impossible. We should eat something before we go to the doctor, Simone said, looking at the clock. Their appointment was at 2. But neither of them could manage more than a few bites of the sandwiches she made. The food tasted like dust. Dr. Morrison's office was in a modern medical building downtown. Simone had driven past it 100 times without ever thinking about it. Now it felt significant. This was where David had heard the words that ended their life together. This was where they'd planned how he would die. The receptionist smiled at them professionally. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson? Dr. Morrison is ready for you. Dr. Morrison was a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. She shook Simone's hand firmly. I'm glad David finally brought you, she said. I've been telling him for weeks that he needed to tell you. I wish he'd listened, Simone said. Dr. Morrison gestured for them to sit. Her office was warm, filled with plants and soft lighting. A place designed to deliver bad news as gently as possible. I'm sure David has explained the basics, Dr. Morrison began. But let me go over everything with both of you. I want to make sure you understand what we're dealing with. She pulled up scans on her computer. David's insides in black and white. The tumor showed up as darker spots, shadows eating away at him from the inside. The primary tumor is here, she pointed at the largest shadow. In the pancreas. But it's metastasized, spread to the liver, the lymph nodes, and most recently we found spots on the lungs. That's why surgery isn't an option. The cancer is too widespread. Simone stared at the screen. This was David. These shadows were inside the man she loved, killing him cell by cell. What about chemotherapy? She asked. Chemotherapy can slow the progression, Dr. Morrison said carefully. But it won't cure him. In cases like this, we're talking about buying time, not saving lives. The treatment would likely give David an additional 2 to 4 months. But the side effects can be severe nausea, fatigue, hair loss, compromised immune system. Many patients find that the treatment makes them too sick to enjoy the time they have left. And without treatment? Without treatment, we're looking at 4 to 6 months. Maybe as much as 8 if David's fortunate. The disease will progress. Pain will become an issue which we can manage with medication. Eventually the organs will begin to fail. She paused, her expression gentle. I know this is a lot to take in. What would you do? David asked suddenly. If it were you? Dr. Morrison sat back in her chair. That's not a question I can answer for you. Everyone's different. Some patients want to fight until the very end, even if it means being sick from treatment. Others want to focus on quality of life rather than quantity. There's no wrong choice. But if it were you, David pressed. Dr. Morrison looked at him for a long moment. If it were me, I'd want to spend whatever time I had left feeling like myself, being present with my loved ones, making memories instead of spending my days in hospitals. But that's me. You have to decide what's right for you. David looked at Simone. What do you think? I think, Simone took a shaky breath. I think you should do whatever makes you feel like you're living, not just surviving. If treatment would give you hope, then we do treatment. But if it would just make you miserable for a few extra weeks, then she couldn't finish. I don't want to spend what's left of my life being sick, David said quietly. I want to really live it. Does that make me a coward? It makes you brave, Dr. Morrison said firmly. It takes courage to accept reality and choose your own path. If you decide against treatment, we'll focus on keeping you comfortable. Pain management, symptom control, quality of life. And if you change your mind at any point, that door doesn't close. You can always opt for treatment later if you want to try it. They discussed details after that. Hospice care when the time came. Pain medications. What to expect as the disease progressed. Dr. Morrison was thorough, compassionate, and clinical all at once. She made dying sound like just another phase of life to be managed. By the time they left her office, Simone's head was spinning with information. Timelines. Symptoms. Resources. A roadmap for how to watch your husband die. In the car, neither of them spoke for a long time. Are you angry that I don't want treatment? David finally asked. No, Simone said honestly. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. I need you to know that I'm not giving up. Choosing no treatment isn't giving up. It's choosing to spend whatever time I have left being me, not some sick person who can't get out of bed. I know. Simone reached over and took his hand. And we're going to make sure that whatever time you have left is good. Really good. Full of everything you love. Everything I love is you, David said softly. They drove home in silence, hands clasped tight. Outside, the world continued on. People went to work, picked up their kids, complained about traffic. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that the Pattersons' world had just gotten a roadmap for its ending. When they pulled into their driveway, Diane's car was already there. Through the window, Simone could see her mother moving around in the kitchen. Ready? David asked. No. But let's go anyway. They walked into the house together, hand in hand. Ready to face whatever came next. Together. The house filled up quickly. Diane had let herself in with her spare key and immediately taken over the kitchen. By the time Simone and David walked through the door, she had coffee brewing and was pulling ingredients from the refrigerator with the efficiency of a woman on a mission. Mama, Simone said, and that one word was enough. Diane turned from the counter, took one look at her daughter's face, and crossed the kitchen in 3 strides. She pulled Simone into her arms without a word, and Simone let herself be held like she was a child again. Her mother smelled like cocoa butter and lavender, familiar and safe. I've got you, baby girl, Diane murmured. I've got you. Over her mother's shoulder, Simone saw David standing awkwardly in the doorway. Diane noticed and released Simone, moving to embrace David with the same fierce tenderness. You listen to me, David Patterson, Diane said, her hands on his shoulders. You are my son. You have been since the day you married my daughter. And I am going to be here for you, both of you, through all of this. Do you understand me? David's eyes welled up. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Good. Diane patted his cheek. Now sit down. Both of you. You look exhausted. I'm making my chicken soup, and you're going to eat every bite. Simone almost smiled. Her mother's solution to every problem was food. Heartbreak. Here's some soup. Stress. Have some cornbread. Facing death? Let me feed you until you can't move. It was how Diane showed love, and right now, Simone needed that love desperately. They sat at the kitchen table while Diane moved around them, chopping vegetables and humming under her breath. The normalcy of it was almost painful. This was how Saturday afternoons used to be, sitting in the kitchen, watching Mama cook, talking about nothing important. But everything was different now. Renee arrived an hour later, bursting through the door with her usual chaotic energy. She was carrying 2 suitcases and a backpack, her curly hair wild around her face. I'm here, she announced, dropping everything in the entryway. Then she saw David and her face crumpled. Oh, David. She ran to him and threw her arms around his neck. David hugged her back, and Simone saw him struggling not to break down again. You better not die before teaching me how to change my oil, Renee said fiercely into his shoulder. You promised. I'll teach you this weekend, David promised. Renee pulled back, wiping her eyes. You better. David's parents arrived that evening, looking haggard from the rushed flight. Linda Patterson was a petite woman with David's warm eyes and a smile that could light up a room. But tonight, her eyes were red and swollen, her face pale with shock. My baby, she whispered when she saw David, and then she was holding him, rocking him like he was 5 years old again. My baby boy. Thomas Patterson, tall and stoic, stood with his hand on his son's shoulder, his jaw clenched tight. He was a man who'd spent his life fixing things: cars, houses, problems. But he couldn't fix this, and the helplessness on his face was terrible to see. The house felt too small with everyone in it. Too full of grief and love and desperate attempts to pretend everything was okay. Diane served dinner, her chicken soup with cornbread and green beans, and they all sat around the table trying to eat, trying to talk, trying to act normal. But normal was impossible. So what's the plan? Thomas asked finally, setting down his spoon. Treatment options? Second opinions? We need a strategy here. Dad, David started. Don't dad me. We're not just going to sit here and accept this. There has to be something we can do. We've already decided, Simone said gently. David's not doing chemotherapy. Linda's head snapped up. What? Why not? Because it would make me miserable for a couple extra weeks, David said. And I'd rather spend the time I have left living, not being sick from treatment. But if it gives you more time. It's his choice, Linda, Diane said firmly. We have to respect that. But he's my son, Linda's voice broke. He's my baby. How can I watch him die without fighting? You're not watching him die, Simone said. You're watching him live. However much time he has left, he's going to really live it. That's the fight. Linda pressed her napkin to her face, shoulders shaking. Thomas put his arm around her, his own eyes wet. I'm sorry, David said softly. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. But I've thought about this a lot. This is what I need to do. Then we support him, Gregory said from the doorway. He'd arrived while they were talking, letting himself in quietly. We don't make this harder by arguing. We support him and we make the most of whatever time we have. When did you get so wise? Renee asked, attempting a smile. When my brother got cancer, Gregory said flatly. The blunt words hung in the air. No one knew what to say to that. Janelle showed up after dinner with enough groceries to feed them for a week. She moved through the kitchen with practiced efficiency, putting things away while Diane directed her. I figured you'd have a house full of people and no time to shop, Janelle said to Simone. So I handled it. Thank you, Simone said, hugging her friend tight. Thank you for everything. That's what family does, Janelle said simply. And that's what they were, Simone realized. This collection of people crowded into her living room: biological family and chosen family, all held together by love and grief. They were her anchor, her safety net, the people who would catch her when she fell. Later that night, after everyone had claimed bedrooms and couches and sleeping bags, Simone found David standing on the back porch, staring at the dark yard. You okay? She asked, sliding her arms around his waist from behind. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How do I be around everyone knowing they're just waiting for me to die? They're not waiting for you to die. They're here to be with you while you're alive. It feels the same. It's not. Simone rested her cheek against his back. And you know what? You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you're not. These people love you. They want to help carry this with you. I'm scared of becoming a burden. You're not a burden. You're David. You're my husband, their son, their brother, their friend. That doesn't change because you're sick. David turned to face her, pulling her close. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. You deserve every good thing. She kissed him softly. And I deserve you. So we're even. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars. Inside, the house was full of people. Outside, the night was quiet and dark. And between them, there was love, fierce and desperate and absolutely certain. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More difficult conversations. Plans to make and decisions to face. But tonight they had this moment. This peace. This love. And that would have to be enough. The first week was the hardest. Everyone wanted to help, which meant the house was constantly full of people. Linda cooked enough food to feed an army. Thomas started a list of house repairs he insisted needed to be done immediately. Renee appointed herself David's personal assistant, following him around and asking if he needed anything every 5 minutes. Gregory called every day to check in. Diane organized the refrigerator 3 times. It was exhausting and overwhelming and exactly what they needed. But by the second week, reality started to settle in. This wasn't a crisis that would pass. This was their new normal. People couldn't stay forever. They had lives, jobs, responsibilities. One by one they started to leave. Thomas and Linda were the last to go, and Linda cried the entire drive to the airport. Call me every day, she demanded, clutching David's hands. Every single day. Even if it's just for a minute. I need to hear your voice. I will, Mom. I promise. And if anything changes, if you need anything, I'll call, David promised. I'll call. After they left, the house felt too quiet. Too empty. For 2 weeks, there had been constant noise, constant distraction. Now it was just Simone and David again, facing the reality they'd been avoiding. What now? David asked, standing in the middle of their living room. Now we figure out how to actually live, Simone said. She'd been thinking about this. About what Dr. Morrison had said. About making the most of the time they had left. About really living instead of just waiting to die. I made a list, she said, pulling out her phone. David raised an eyebrow. A list? A bucket list? All the things you've always wanted to do but never got around to. All the places you wanted to go, the experiences you wanted to have. We're going to do as many of them as we can. David took her phone and scrolled through the list. Learn to play guitar. See the Grand Canyon. Go to a jazz club. Eat at that fancy restaurant downtown we always said was too expensive. Dance in the rain. He looked up at her, eyes bright. You remember all this stuff? Of course I do. I've been paying attention for 12 years. I don't know if I'll have energy for all of this. Then we do what we can. And the rest doesn't matter. She took his hands. I don't want to spend the next few months just sitting around waiting. I want to do things. Make memories. Really live. David pulled her close and kissed her forehead. Okay, let's do it. Let's really live. They started small. That weekend, David bought a guitar from a music shop downtown. He'd always wanted to learn but never found the time. Now time was all they had. He was terrible at first. His fingers fumbled over the strings, producing sounds that made them both wince. But he kept practicing, and Simone sat nearby, pretending to grade papers while really just watching him. Memorizing the way he looked when he was concentrating. The way his tongue stuck out slightly when he tried a difficult chord. The way he smiled when he finally got something right. I'm never going to get good at this, he said after a particularly discordant attempt. That's not the point, Simone said. The point is that you're doing it. That you're trying something new. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. They went to the Grand Canyon the following week. It was a spontaneous decision. Simone called in sick to work, and they drove through the night to get there by sunrise. Standing at the rim, watching the sun paint the rocks in shades of gold and red, David reached for her hand. It's beautiful, he said softly. Yeah. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for being here to bring. They took pictures, hundreds of them. Pictures of the canyon, of each other, of them together. Evidence that they'd been here. That they'd seen this. That they'd lived this moment. On the way home, David got quiet. What are you thinking? Simone asked. That I wish we'd done this years ago. That I wasted so much time worrying about work and bills and stupid things that don't matter. I wish I'd appreciated every day more. You can't think like that. You can't spend now wishing you'd done things differently then. Why not? Because then you're wasting now too. She reached over and squeezed his hand. We're here. We're doing this. That's what matters. David raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. You're right. You're always right. Remember that. They fell into a rhythm over the next few weeks. Good days and bad days. Days when David felt strong enough to work in the garden or go for walks. Days when he was too tired to get out of bed, when the pain medication made him foggy and distant. Simone learned to read him. Learned when to push and when to let him rest. Learned how to help without making him feel helpless. It was a delicate balance and she didn't always get it right. But she tried. She also learned to accept help. Janelle came over twice a week to sit with David while Simone went to work. Gregory stopped by on Saturdays to watch football and pretend everything was normal. Diane called every morning to check in. Renee sent rambling text messages full of memes and jokes trying to make them laugh. Their church community rallied around them. The pastor, Reverend Harris, visited regularly. Members of the congregation brought meals, offered prayers, provided shoulders to cry on. Simone had never felt more supported or more grateful for her community. One evening, about a month after the diagnosis, they went to the jazz club David had always wanted to visit. It was in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and dim lighting. The music was incredible, a quartet playing standards that made Simone's heart ache. David held her close as they slow danced to "What a Wonderful World," and she memorized everything about this moment. The feel of his arms around her. The sound of his heartbeat against her ear. The way he hummed along with the music. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I love you too. No matter what happens." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't talk about after. Just be here now. With me." "Okay," he agreed. "Here. No. With you." They danced until the last song ended, until the club started to empty, until they were the last couple on the floor. And when they finally left, stepping out into the cool night air, Simone felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Not hope that things would be okay. Not hope that David would miraculously recover. But hope that they would survive this. That they would make it through whatever came next. That their love was strong enough to carry them. "That was perfect," David said, pulling her close. "It was," Simone agreed. And it was. Despite everything, despite the diagnosis and the pain and the fear, this moment was perfect. This moment was theirs. This moment was enough. They drove home with the windows down, letting the night air wash over them. And for a little while, they were just a couple in love, driving through the city on a beautiful night. The cancer was still there. The timeline was still counting down. But right now, in this moment, they were alive. They were together. They were happy. And that was everything. 3 months after the diagnosis, David started to decline. It was subtle at first. He needed more naps during the day. His appetite decreased. He moved more slowly, as if his body had suddenly become too heavy. The pain that had been manageable with over-the-counter medication now required prescription painkillers. Dr. Morrison wasn't surprised when they came in for a checkup. "This is expected," she said gently. "The cancer is progressing. We can adjust your pain management, maybe add some medication for the fatigue. But David, I want you to be prepared, things are going to get harder from here." "How much harder?" Simone asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "He'll need more care. Help with daily activities. Eventually we'll want to discuss hospice services." Hospice. The word landed like a stone. Hospice meant the end was near. Hospice meant giving up on fighting. But they weren't fighting, were they? They were living. There was a difference. "How long?" David asked quietly. "It's hard to say exactly. Maybe 2 to 3 months. Maybe less. Less than 3 months. Simone did the math. That meant David might not live to see Christmas. Might not see his next birthday. Might not see spring. On the way home, she drove while David dozed in the passenger seat. She watched him sleep, watched the rise and fall of his chest, and tried to memorize it. The way his mouth fell slightly open. The way his hand rested on his lap. The way sunlight caught in his hair. When they got home, she helped him upstairs to bed. He moved like an old man now, slow and careful. It hurt to watch. "I'm sorry," he said as he lowered himself onto the mattress. "I know this isn't what you signed up for." "It's exactly what I signed up for," Simone corrected, helping him with his shoes. "In sickness and in health. Remember?" "I remember. But I thought we'd have more healthy years first." "Me too." She lay down beside him, careful not to jostle him. "But we don't. So we make the most of what we have." David turned his head to look at her. "You should go back to work. Full time. You've been taking off too much. Your principal must be furious." Simone had been working part-time for the past 2 months, going in for the morning and coming home by noon. Her principal, Mrs. Davis, had been understanding, but Simone knew she was pushing the limits of the school's generosity. "I'm not leaving you alone all day," she said firmly. I'm not alone. Janelle comes over. Gregory stops by. Your mom calls every 5 minutes. He smiled weakly. I'm fine, Simone. And you love your job. Your kids need you. You need me more. I need you to keep living your life. Keep being you. That's what I need most. Simone wanted to argue, but she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. This conversation was taking energy he didn't have to spare. We'll talk about it later, she said. Rest now. She stayed beside him until he fell asleep, then crept downstairs to call Mrs. Davis. I need to take a leave of absence, she said when her principal answered. I know it's not ideal timing, but my husband. I know, Mrs. Davis interrupted gently. I heard through the grapevine. Simone, take whatever time you need. Your class will be covered. Your job will be here when you're ready to come back. Thank you, Simone whispered. How are you holding up? I don't know. Some days better than others. Today was hard. I can't imagine what you're going through. But if you need anything at all, you call me. Okay. After they hung up, Simone sat in her quiet kitchen and let herself cry. She was tired of being strong. Tired of pretending she was okay when she was falling apart. Tired of watching the man she loved fade away a little more each day. Her phone buzzed. A text from Janelle. How'd the doctor appointment go? Simone called her instead of texting back. Not good, she said when Janelle answered. She said maybe 2 or 3 months. Maybe less. Janelle swore softly. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm coming over. 20 minutes later, Janelle was at her door with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. You need to eat, she said, heading straight for the kitchen. And then you need to talk. Or cry. Or both. They sat at the kitchen table while David slept upstairs. Simone picked at her food, not really tasting it. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to watch him die. You do it one day at a time, Janelle said. Just like you've been doing. You get up, you take care of him, you love him. That's all you can do. It doesn't feel like enough. It's everything. Janelle reached across the table and gripped her hand. You being there, loving him, making his last months meaningful, that's everything, Simone. Don't underestimate how much that matters. I'm scared, Simone whispered. I'm so scared of what comes after. Of being alone. Of having to figure out how to live without him. I know. But you won't be alone. You have me. You have your family. You have a whole community that loves you. We're going to carry you through this. What if I can't survive it? You will. You're stronger than you think. And when you're not strong enough, we'll be strong for you. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything pressing down on them. Tell me something good, Simone said finally. Tell me something that doesn't have to do with dying. So Janelle told her about the new resident at the hospital who kept mixing up patient charts. About her nephew's school play where he forgot all his lines. About the terrible date she'd gone on last week with a guy who talked about his ex-wife the entire time. Simone listened and even managed to laugh a few times. Normal things. Regular problems. A reminder that life continued even when her world was ending. Later, after Janelle left, Simone climbed back into bed beside David. He stirred as she settled in, reaching for her automatically. Hi, he murmured, still half asleep. Hi. Everything okay? Yeah. Janelle came by. We ate dinner and talked. That's good. He pulled her closer. You need that. Need to talk to someone who isn't dying. Don't say that. It's true though. His voice was soft in the dark. I'm dying, Simone. We both know it. And you need people in your life who remind you that not everything is about that. You're my life, she said. You've always been my life. I know. But I won't be much longer. And I need to know that you'll be okay when I'm gone. That you'll have people to lean on. I will, she promised. I will. But right now you're still here. So let's not talk about after. Let's just be here. Now. Okay, David agreed. Here. Now. He fell back asleep quickly, his breathing evening out. But Simone lay awake for a long time, listening to the sound of his breath, counting each one like a prayer. 2 months. Maybe 3. Maybe less. Every breath was precious now. Every moment was borrowed time. And she would treasure each one until there were no more left to count. Thanksgiving came, and David rallied enough to sit at the table with family. The house was full again: Linda and Thomas, Gregory, Diane, Renee, Janelle. Everyone trying to pretend this wasn't a goodbye dinner. Everyone trying to pretend they'd be together like this next year. David barely ate, but he smiled and laughed at the right moments. He held court, telling stories and making jokes, being the David everyone remembered. But Simone could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Could see how much effort it took just to sit upright. Could see him fading even as he tried so hard to be present. After dinner he needed to lie down. Simone helped him to the couch while everyone else cleaned up, their laughter drifting from the kitchen. David pulled her down beside him, tucking her against his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For this. For giving me one more Thanksgiving with everyone." For his voice caught. "For everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." He kissed the top of her head. "I don't say it enough. Thank you for loving me. For staying with me. For making these last months the best months of my life." "They've been the hardest months of my life," Simone said honestly. "But also the most meaningful. As I got to really see you. Really know you. We didn't take anything for granted." "No, we didn't." They lay there together while the house buzzed with family around them. This was good, Simone thought. This was right. David surrounded by everyone who loved him, spending his last good day being happy. Because it was his last good day. They both knew it even if no one said it out loud. By December, David rarely left the bed. The hospice nurse, Carmen, came daily to help with medication and care. She was a middle-aged Filipino woman with gentle hands and a no-nonsense attitude that Simone appreciated. "You need to take breaks," Carmen told Simone one afternoon. "You can't do this 24 hours a day. You'll burn out." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Look at you, you're exhausted. When's the last time you left the house?" Simone couldn't remember. "Go for a walk," Carmen ordered. "Right now. I'll sit with David. Go get some fresh air and clear your head." So Simone went, though every step away from the house felt wrong. She walked through their neighborhood, past houses decorated for Christmas. Lights and wreaths and inflatable snowmen. The world celebrating while hers was ending. She found herself at the small park 3 blocks from home, the one where she and David used to walk on Sunday mornings. They'd sit on the bench by the pond and plan their week, their month, their future. There was no future now. There was only now. Only today. Only this moment. When she got back home, Carmen was coming down the stairs. "He's asking for you," she said. "Go on up." David was awake, propped up on pillows. He looked so small in their bed, so fragile. The cancer had stolen his weight, his color, his strength. But when he saw her, his face lit up with the smile she'd fallen in love with 13 years ago. "Hey, beautiful," he said, his voice weak. "Hey, yourself." She climbed into bed beside him, careful not to hurt him. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. But good. Better now that you're here." They lay together in comfortable silence. Outside the window, snow was starting to fall, the first snow of the season. David watched it, his expression distant. "I'm not going to see another spring," he said quietly. "David. It's okay. I've made peace with it." He turned to look at her. "I need you to know that I'm not afraid anymore. Not of dying. Not of leaving you. Because I know you're going to be okay. You're going to survive this and move forward and keep living that beautiful life you've always lived. I don't want to do it without you. I know. But you will. Because you're strong and brave and the best person I've ever known." He lifted his hand, it took visible effort, and touched her face. "Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll keep teaching. Keep helping those kids. Keep being a light in the world. Don't let my dying make you forget how to live." "I promise," she whispered. "And promise me you won't spend the rest of your life alone. When you're ready, not now, not soon, but someday, let yourself love again. Let yourself be happy. David. Promise me, Simone. I need to know you'll let yourself have a full life." "I promise," she said, though the words felt like a betrayal. "Good." He smiled, satisfied. "That's good." He fell asleep then, his hand still touching her face. Simone stayed perfectly still, not wanting to wake him, memorizing this moment. This might be the last real conversation they'd have. The last time he was lucid enough to tell her what he needed her to hear. The snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the world in white. Beautiful and silent and somehow perfect. 2 weeks later, on a gray December morning, David woke with a gasp. His breathing had been labored for days, but this was different. This was Simone, he managed. She was there immediately, taking his hand. "I'm here. I'm right here." "Love you," he whispered. "Always. I love you too. So much." His eyes found hers, held them. "It's okay. I'm ready." "I'm not," she said, tears streaming. "I'm not ready." "I know. But it's time." He squeezed her hand weakly. "Let me go, baby. It's time to let me go." The family was there within an hour, everyone who mattered, everyone who loved him. They gathered around the bed, holding him, talking to him, loving him. Gregory held his hand. Linda stroked his hair. Thomas stood at the foot of the bed, tall and silent and breaking. Diane and Renee sat on the other side, their faces wet with tears. But Simone stayed closest, her face near his, whispering all the things she needed him to know. "You made my life better," she told him. "Every day with you was a gift. You were my home, my heart, my everything. I don't regret a single moment. Not even the hard ones. Not even these last months. Because they were ours. Our time. Our love. And nothing, not death, not time, not anything can take that away." David's breathing slowed. Each breath became more labored than the last. He was fighting to stay, fighting to hold on, fighting for just one more moment with the people he loved. "It's okay," Simone whispered, pressing her forehead to his. "You can rest now. We'll be okay. I'll be okay. You don't have to fight anymore." And with her permission, with her love surrounding him, David let go. His last breath left him as gently as the snowflakes falling outside the window. One moment he was there, and the next, he was gone. The silence that followed was absolute. Devastating. Complete. Simone held him, this body that had housed the man she loved, and felt her heart shatter into pieces so small they could never be put back together. "No," she heard herself say. "No, no, no." But saying it didn't change anything. Begging didn't bring him back. Nothing would ever bring him back. David was gone. And Simone's world ended with him. The funeral was on a cold Saturday 3 days before Christmas. The church was packed. Simone sat in the front row, numb and distant, barely aware of the people surrounding her. The pastor spoke about David's life, his kindness, his love. Friends and family stood up to share memories. Gregory told a story about their childhood that made people laugh through their tears. Linda read a letter she'd written to her son, her voice breaking on every word. Simone didn't speak. Couldn't speak. What words existed for this loss? How did you summarize a life, a love, a future that would never happen? She stared at the casket at the front of the church and tried to comprehend that David was inside it. That he was really gone. That she'd never hear his laugh again, never feel his arms around her, never dance with him in the kitchen or argue about what to watch on TV or do any of the million ordinary things that had made up their life together. After the funeral, there was a reception at their house. It filled with people offering condolences, bringing food, trying to help. Everyone meant well, but Simone couldn't process any of it. She moved through her own home like a ghost, accepting hugs and murmured sympathies without really hearing them. Finally, when everyone had left except Janelle and her mother, Simone climbed the stairs to her bedroom and closed the door. The room still smelled like David. His clothes still hung in the closet. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand. Everything was exactly as he'd left it, but he was gone. She climbed into their bed, into the space where he'd spent his last days, and let herself finally, completely fall apart. She cried until there were no tears left. Until her throat was raw and her chest ached. Until she was empty of everything but grief. Downstairs, she could hear Janelle and Diane talking quietly. They were staying with her tonight. Probably for many nights. They wouldn't let her be alone. Wouldn't let her disappear into this grief. And she was grateful for that, even if she couldn't say it. The next weeks passed in a blur. Christmas came and went. New Year's passed without celebration. January dragged by in shades of gray. Simone moved through each day mechanically, getting up, getting dressed, eating when people insisted, going through the motions of being alive. But she wasn't living. She was just existing. Surviving. Waiting for the pain to ease enough that she could breathe again. Diane stayed for 2 weeks before she had to return to her own life. Renee stayed for 3, working remotely from Simone's guest room. Janelle came over every day after work. Gregory called every Sunday. Linda and Thomas visited every other weekend. Everyone was trying to help. Trying to pull her back from the edge. Trying to remind her that life continued. But Simone couldn't see how. Without David, everything felt pointless. The future they'd planned was gone. The life they'd built was over. She was 38 years old and a widow, and she had no idea how to be that. One morning in mid-February, she woke up to find Janelle sitting on the edge of her bed. "Okay," Janelle said. "I love you, but this has to stop." Simone blinked at her. "What?" "This." Janelle gestured at the bedroom, the curtains still drawn, the tissues everywhere, the general state of despair. "You haven't left the house in 3 weeks. You're not answering calls. You're barely eating. This grief is going to swallow you whole if you don't fight back." "I don't know how to fight it." "Yes, you do. You get up. You shower. You go outside. You do one small thing that reminds you you're still alive." I don't want to be alive, Simone said and realized it was true. Not without him. Janelle's expression softened. I know. But David didn't die so you could give up on life. He died knowing you'd keep living. Remember? You promised him. The promise? God, the promise. I don't know how to keep that promise, Simone whispered. You start small. Today you shower. Tomorrow you come to my place for dinner. The day after you walk around the block. Baby steps. One day at a time. And then what? And then you keep going. You keep taking steps. Eventually it gets a little easier. Not easy, but easier. Simone wanted to argue. Wanted to pull the covers over her head and disappear. But she could hear David's voice in her head. Promise me you'll keep living that beautiful life. She'd made that promise. And if she couldn't keep it for herself, she'd keep it for him. Okay, she said finally. Okay. She showered. It was exhausting, but she did it. The next day she went to Janelle's for dinner. The day after that she walked around the block. Small steps. Baby steps. Steps that felt impossible but necessary. Mrs. Davis called in early March. No pressure, she said. But we'd love to have you back whenever you're ready. Your class has had 3 substitute teachers and they're asking about you. I don't know if I can, Simone admitted. You don't have to know yet. But think about it. Those kids love you. And I think being around them might help. After they hung up, Simone thought about her second graders. About their gap-toothed smiles and endless questions. About the way they looked at her like she had all the answers. About how much joy she'd gotten from teaching them. Maybe Mrs. Davis was right. Maybe teaching would help. Maybe those kids needed her as much as she needed something to fill the empty hours. 2 weeks later, on a Monday morning in late March, Simone walked back into her classroom. The kids erupted in cheers when they saw her. They mobbed her with hugs and questions and drawings they'd made for her. Their enthusiasm was overwhelming and beautiful and exactly what she needed. We missed you, Mrs. Patterson, they chorused. I missed you too, she said and meant it. Teaching was hard at first. She'd lost track of where they were in the curriculum. She had to relearn their routines. She got tired more easily than she used to. But it was good. It was right. Being around children, helping them learn, watching them grow, it reminded her why she'd become a teacher in the first place. It reminded her that life continued. That there was still joy and wonder in the world. That David would want her to be part of it. Spring came slowly. The rose bushes David had planted 3 years ago bloomed again, pink and white and red. Simone spent her weekends in the garden, tending the plants he'd loved, talking to him as she worked. I'm trying, she told the roses. Told him. I'm trying to keep my promise. On their anniversary in May, she visited his grave. Brought flowers. Sat on the grass and told him about her day, her students, the small victories and struggles of living without him. I love you, she said to the headstone. I'll always love you. But I'm learning how to be okay. Like you wanted me to. The grief was still there. Would always be there. But it was changing, softening into something she could carry instead of something that crushed her. In June, Gregory called. I'm organizing a cookout at my place, he said. Just family and close friends. Nothing big. But I would really like you to come. Simone's first instinct was to say no. But she heard David's voice. Keep living that beautiful life. Okay, she said. I'll come. The cookout was bittersweet. Everyone was there: Gregory, Linda and Thomas, Diane, Renee, Janelle. The people who'd carried her through the worst time of her life. They laughed and told stories and remembered David with love instead of just sadness. And Simone found herself laughing too. Really laughing, not just pretending. Found herself enjoying being around people. Found herself feeling something other than grief for the first time in months. You look good, Janelle said as they sat together watching the sun set. I feel okay, Simone admitted. Not great. Not healed. But okay. That's progress. Yeah. Simone smiled. It is. That summer she started saying yes to things. Coffee with friends. Dinner with her mother. A weekend trip with Renee. She started reclaiming her life piece by piece, moment by moment. It wasn't easy. There were still hard days. Days when the grief overwhelmed her. Days when she missed David so much it physically hurt. Days when she didn't want to get out of bed. But there were also good days. Days when she remembered David with more joy than pain. Days when she felt grateful for the time they'd had instead of bitter about the time they'd lost. Days when she could imagine a future, not the future she'd planned, but a future nonetheless. In August, on what would have been David's 41st birthday, Simone did something she'd been avoiding. She went through his things. She kept his favorite shirt, the one that smelled like him. kept his wedding ring, kept the guitar he'd been learning to play. But the rest she donated to people who could use them. Let them go. Made space for new things. New memories. New life. That evening, she stood in her bedroom now, and looked at the space that had once been so full of David. His side of the closet was empty now. His nightstand was bare. Only the memories remained. I'm going to be okay, she said out loud. Said to him. Said to herself. You were right. I'm going to survive this. And she meant it. David was gone. That would never stop being true. That would never stop hurting. But Simone was still here. Still living. Still finding moments of joy and beauty in the world. She was keeping her promise. She was learning to live again. 1 year later, Simone stood at the cemetery on a crisp November morning, a bouquet of roses in her hands, pink and white and red, from the bushes David had planted. Hi, baby, she said to the headstone. It's been a year. A year since he'd died. A year since her world had ended and somehow continued anyway. A year of grief and healing and learning to live with absence. I'm teaching again full-time, she told him. My class is amazing this year. You'd love them. There's this one boy, Terrence, who reminds me so much of you, sweet and funny and always trying to help everyone. She knelt and placed the roses on his grave. I'm okay, she continued. Most days anyway. I still miss you. God, I miss you every single day. But I'm learning to carry that missing instead of letting it carry me. A breeze rustled through the cemetery, moving through the trees in a way that felt almost like an answer. I kept my promise, she said. I'm living. Really living. I went on that trip to Ghana with Mama. I learned to play that guitar you started. I'm terrible at it, but I'm trying. I planted new roses in the backyard. I'm even thinking about getting a dog. She smiled through the tears streaming down her face. I love you, she whispered. I'll always love you. Thank you for giving me the best years of my life. Thank you for fighting as long as you did. Thank you for teaching me what real love looks like. She sat there for a while longer, talking to him, remembering him, loving him. Then she stood, brushed off her knees, and walked back to her car. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Life was continuing. And Simone was part of it. Not because the pain was gone. Not because she'd forgotten. But because David had taught her, in his dying, how to really live. How to appreciate every moment. How to love fully and deeply. How to keep going even when everything felt impossible. She drove home past the park where they used to walk. Past the grocery store where they'd shop together. Past all the places that held memories of their life together. When she pulled into the driveway, Janelle's car was already there. She'd be inside, probably making coffee, definitely ready to spend the day with Simone on this hard anniversary. But this year, Simone didn't need to be held together. This year she could hold herself. She was learning to be whole again. Not the same whole she'd been before that person was gone, changed forever by loss. But a new kind of whole. Stronger maybe. Deeper. More aware of how precious and fragile life was. She walked into her house, the house she'd shared with David, the house where he'd died, the house that was now hers alone, and felt peace. He was gone. But real love didn't end with death. It continued. It grew. It transformed into something new. And Simone would carry that love with her for the rest of her life. It was enough. It would always be enough.